If you want that, you can get that anywhere you turn the channel on talk radio these days. All those who stabbed the president in the back for a year are now his greatest supporters, which is fine. He knows to keep his enemies closer. He doesn't need to keep me close because he knows I'm his friend. So we'll talk about the stress conference. I will tell you that I think Jim Acosta should be barred from any presidential press conference permanently for his ill behavior. This is not questioning. This is a man grandstanding trying to attract attention to his sick self. And I say it's time to throw him out of the press conference. Now, as far as Attorney General Sessions stepping down, most of you don't know who he is. Some of you do. Your fanatics know who he is. But I'm going to make a recommendation right off the bat. There's no mystery to me. I'll make it right now, and you can quote me on this. Laura Ingraham should be Attorney General. I say, what? Someone else from Fox? Well, she's the only one from Fox who's actually qualified to work for the president. Laura Ingraham not only has a first law degree from Georgetown, not only was she a clerk in Clarence Thomas's for Clarence Thomas, but she speaks Russian fluently, which should help her in any future Russia investigation. So I'm for all Laura. I mean, she's a friend of mine, but I think she's great, and I think she should definitely be the Attorney General. I don't know who else would do the job like that, but let me begin at the top. First of all, today is a good day for you to vent, whether you're in the porn belt or the corn belt. The Savage Nation is open to you at 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. My number one line is vote fraud cost us the U.S. House. And that's the number one issue is a national voter ID. Voter fraud cost us the House. It's all the illegal aliens that the unions brought in who voted who were not qualified to vote. Everybody knows that. So I have several of the smartest people in the world who I speak with, and they wrote me 2 emails. I'll read them to you, and you can tell me what you think. One speaks very, very few words, and this advisor said, in 2020, the Dems take the presidency and the Senate. 2 years left of good times. Then it's over. Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan, all went to blue. We'll go back to blue. Those states got Trump elected. Nevada, Colorado, blue from illegal aliens. New Mexico, all blue. Texas and Florida gone in 2020 from immigration and felons' right to vote. 2020, Florida gone. This is the simple lay of the land. Another advisor wrote to Savage and said, Republicans now control the Senate by more votes, which is great. Means more Supreme Court appointees. Conservative appointees for life. We finally get rid of the high court communist agenda. Also means health care gets overhauled. Employers win big in May. New court ruled okay, maintaining arbitration ruling. In May, the new court ruled that it's okay to maintain arbitration rulings in anti-class actions. Huge win. Overcame big union commie agenda. Would never have happened before with former court without Scalia and without Gorsuch. To benefit by being safe from class action bottom-feeding lawyers, business wins. Employees now must go to arbitration with employers for any grievances. The old extortion racketeering game is over by the lawyers for the time being. As far as the illegal aliens, Michael, you say voter ID is required. I agree 100%, this advisor says, but never forget, this nation has long run on illegal immigrant labor to work the fields, do the dirty work, slaughterhouses, etc. Clean airport bathrooms, milk the dairy cows, feed the chickens and cows, etc. Who else is going to do it? What is needed is a change of benefits for illegals. That is the issue. And, of course, cracking down on voter fraud. Unless you're a citizen, you don't vote. That's the only thing that could save America. That's the second advisor. Now, here are some questions for you. Do you feel progressivism and socialism is gaining traction? Now, let me stop on that question because I said to a very important friend last night that I've studied communism and socialism since I'm 18 years old. What you are seeing in America is a slow march. It's known as the slow march or the long march by Mao Zedong. Mao Zedong was known for the long march. The Democrat socialists are in it for the long haul. They are within striking distance of having a clear and present voice in this country, which will be a disaster for the middle class. But when you see that radical fanatics like Cortez's great-great-great-granddaughter descendant, a liar through and through, grew up in a middle-class home, makes believe she's poor, but that Cortez wins, and she wants to eliminate ICE, and she wants single-payer health plan called Medicare for All, which no one can afford. She wants a jobs guarantee in which the federal government would promise to give a job to every American who could not find one. This is pie-in-the-sky insanity. But she won. Then you had Ilhan Omar in Minnesota. If you read her positions, you'll have no idea how she got elected other than it's in Minnesota. You had another Muslim, Rashida Tlaib, Democrat, Minnesota. She wants things that are so crazy that even Nancy Pelosi would find them offensive. The first lesbian Native American in Congress, Sharice Davids. Well, welcome to her. Now, I don't care that she's a lesbian. I don't care what anyone does with their bodies, as a matter of fact, as long as they don't bother the children and it's consensual. But her politics are so foolish that Nancy Pelosi would say she's crazy. I won't read them to you right now. And then another Democrat, socialist, communist, Deb Haaland, first Native American woman in Congress. She also has some ideas that I don't think make any sense. She said that the historic drought and consistent snow shortages in her state over the past few years need to be addressed. I guess she wants Donald Trump to make snow in her states. I thought that they have, weather men or something. Don't they have men who dance before the sun or dance in the moon to make snow and rainfall? She wants Donald Trump now to dance in the rain to make snowfall? It's stupid, the climate change thing, for a couple of reasons. Even if there is some climate change, even if man is somewhat responsible, there's almost nothing we can do about it in a short enough period of time to change it. Do you understand that? It's, again, stupid. Now, no one in the media has worked harder than I have on conservation issues throughout my whole life. In fact, I should win a Nobel Prize for what I have done in my life, not only in my writings, but my actual work. I have sacrificed years of my life to conserve the great places on the earth and to protect animals. I deserve not only a Nobel Prize, but I deserve also a Presidential Medal of Freedom. But it doesn't matter whether I have this medal to leave behind for my grandchild. What matters is the foolishness of the people who have hijacked the environmental movement for political reasons. I've actually done the real work. I've done the footwork. I've done the hard work. My collections are in museums around the world, and they will long outlive everyone on Twitter, myself included. So I don't need really the awards and the accolades. But the fact of the matter is, there's very little we can do right now because we're about the cleanest country on the planet. I don't know if you know that. According to the left-wing fanatics, this is the dirtiest nation on the planet, but it's actually one of the cleanest nations on the planet, with perhaps the best environmental protections the world has ever seen. There's almost no more that we can possibly do. Now, does that mean that I want to see animals mercilessly slaughtered? Do I want to see the wild horses of the West castrated the way Mr. Zinke seems to legislate? Do I want to see animals killed in Africa for their ivory? Of course not, and I've worked to stop it. Do you want to see the great apes killed and slaughtered because they want their paws in China so some degenerate low-life mook or bum in China can show off the paw of a great ape? No, of course not. I think anyone who has such a thing should be executed as far as I'm concerned. But these are issues that are almost obtuse to the average American. Now, having said that, the issues of the climate, the issues of the environment, the issues of animal rights and such, particularly trophy hunting, you may think these issues had no play in this election. You would be wrong, because I tried, and I'll say it again. Suburban women did not come out in the great numbers that they did for Donald Trump during the election. I will say it again. Suburban women, meaning educated women, did not come out this time. And that's why we lost 37 or so seats in the House. That was the margin of difference. Now, I lobbied very hard with the president and with some people in the administration. And by the way, many of them agreed with me. Many of them a year ago said, yes, we're going to work on this. They had me to the White House on it. They had me speak with the Secretary of the Interior, the Secretary of one of the other departments, I don't remember which. We were working towards that goal. Then somebody came along and shafted the whole idea of appealing to suburban women on issues of the environment and such. As a result, it cost them dearly in this election. My only hope is they stop listening to the meatheads who are misadvising them and are living in the 1950s. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation.
Welcome back to the Savage Nation. And last night, after I saw the direction that things were going, and I said, unite, don't ignite. And people agreed with it by and large, except for the normal cranks who try to plague people on Twitter. and I sent it to the Inner Circle, Unite, Don't Ignite, today. I think the president tried to unite today, but when I saw the vermin in the media, notably the idiots from CNN, and they should be barred from the... You know, it's a privilege to be invited into the White House, to be a member of the press corps. You know it's a privilege, not a right. And when you see an obstreperous moron like this Jim Acosta, he's like a rapist. The man is raping the presidency on a daily basis. Would you let a rapist into a schoolyard? Would you let a rapist into a press conference who rapes the dignity of the press by pretending to be a member of the press when all he is a grandstander trying to cause a ruckus so he makes a name for himself? Not only should he be banned, I would ban everyone from CNN unless they behaved like everybody else. Now, that doesn't mean you don't have a right to ask pointed questions. You don't have a right to challenge the president. But when you go out of your way to be an AH like this one does, I say he's banned. No more. I wouldn't let him in there. What has the president got to lose by saying they're not allowed in here anymore? Just say no. That's the end of it. He's got the power to stop Jeff Zucker from his mania. Jeff Zucker is putting gasoline on the fire. WABC Tom, before I get started on my show, I haven't really gotten started. Welcome to the program from New York City. What's on your mind?
Hey, Doc. Yeah, you're the only one that makes any sense after this morning. I've been listening around all morning, and I see this as a total lose-lose. He's not going to be able to get anything done. And the country, unfortunately, in 2 years is going to blame him for it, not being able to work with anybody in Congress.
I'm sorry it's gridlock. I'm not going to sit here like a cheerleader and say we had a big victory last night. I would say, thank God we held on to the Senate, but I wouldn't call this a huge victory, would you?
Not at all. Not at all. I wholeheartedly agree. And like I said, you're the only one saying this, and that's the way I was feeling all morning.
Well, what am I going to do? We won the House? We didn't win the House.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for seeing, I think, my way, because my way is the right way. Or else I wouldn't be on the radio. It's that simple. KBET Las Vegas. Jim, go ahead. You're up on the Savage Nation. Thanks for calling.
Hey, you've got some solidarity over here in Nevada. We're blue and you're blue, and we're with you, Michael.
What do you mean I'm blue? I'm not blue.
California sure is.
No, don't accuse me of being from California. I'm from New York.
Yeah, you're from New York now.
Actually,
yeah.
I'm not even from New York. I'm from another planet altogether. But Jim, what are you calling about, basically?
Well, basically, I want to congratulate you on seeing the light because obviously you're a rhino, and you know what all the Democrats...
So you're one of those guys. You're trying to put me down while making believe you're putting me up. What do you really want to say? Stop. You're not smart enough for that role. So what is it you're really trying to do?
Well, what I'm trying to do is to say, you look at what's going on now and creeping towards socialism. I am not for pure socialism, but you can see capitalism on...
Well, where are you going to get your medication if we get pure socialism? They'll run out of money. I can hear that you're having trouble right now on the meds that you're on.
No, I'm not really for pure socialism, not at all.
No, but I can hear you having trouble articulate a paragraph. What meds are you actually on?
Oh, that's really funny, Michael. That's what you're...
Well, you're trying to be a wise guy, so you want me to do, I'll give you back what you're trying to give me. What medication are you on right now?
What medication are you on, Michael?
I don't use any medication. I'm drinking a cup of coffee. You sound like you can't even finish a sentence. You're slurring your words.
What does that have to do with the price?
Oh, okay. So now you don't like it that you got back what you tried to give me. Listen, my friend, you want to get down in the gutter here, you're going to get it back in the guts. Don't try to kick me and make believe you're, well, let's put it to you this way, the way we said it in New York. Don't pee on my back and call it rain.
What to do?
Don't pee on my back and call it rain.
Yeah.
Have a nice day, you schmuck, you. 855-400-7282 is the phone number. So I've given you my opening. Now I want to go into something else, whether you're on medication or not. I don't want to waste your time with you listening. I can just have a wrestling match. I'm going to just give you something right from the heart. It's called From Salem to CNN. We are at risk of returning to this medieval state as we allow the corrupted mainstream press and agenda-driven agitators to gain control of sections of the population. How is the nation's best interest served when the self-serving race baiters call for federal defunding of the Jefferson Memorial? Complaining on TV that U.S. tax dollars should not have to pay for a man with, quote, that kind of background. Now, this is coming from people like Louis Farrakhan, Al Sharpton, and other famed haters of America, who are whipping up a blind frenzy of mass hysteria, not only towards America itself, but towards white people and the history of this nation. And although they lost all of their credibility in their lives, they continue to do now what they have done for years, which is spread mass hysteria that elevates them in the eyes of their own communities. And I say, like the inhabitants of 17th century villages, people hear these leftists speak with authority about subjects in which they have absolutely no objectivity, yet they cheer and follow them and call for blood of America. Today it's mass hysteria raised against one of the towering figures of American history, Thomas Jefferson. That is in Stop Mass Hysteria, a book that was written for after the election, not before it. It's a book of history.
Join us.
You better hear me very carefully. Unless the lawyers in this country are controlled, the country is finished. Unless there's not tort reform but lawyer reform, we are finished. First of all, I want the Mueller witch hunt over by 12/31/18. Loud applause. I want it over, I want it done, and I want a full public disclosure of how every dollar was dispersed by Mueller. I want to know who got every dime. I want to know where that money went. I want to know if it was steered to anyone that they knew, any friends, any relatives. I want the Mueller witch hunt over. He's had free reign. It's over. Get it over with. That's the first thing the new AG must do. Wrap it up, and I want an accounting, a full accounting from you, Mueller, and I'll take a walk already. Get out of here. All you've done is grandstand and turn Americans against each other. It's over. Number two, this story just appeared. You're not going to believe it. It shows you what must be done. Headline, Motel 6 agrees to pay up to $7.6 million to settle claims that the chain notified ICE about Hispanic patrons. I said, what? Now, listen to this very carefully. A class action lawsuit was brought against Motel 6 by the Mexican American Legal Defense Fund, which is the most communistic, anti-American group of legal scum the world has ever seen. Thomas E.N.Z., MALDEF's president, said it's very important in our minds that Motel 6 is putting in place policies and procedures that would prevent this from happening again. No. MALDEF must be investigated by the Attorney General. That's number one, to see how much foreign money is coming into their hands. Now listen to this story carefully. Very carefully listen to this story. The headline again. Motel 6 agrees to pay up to $7.6 million. And the money's all going to illegal aliens and lawyers. What did Motel 6 do? They notified ICE about Hispanic patrons. It wasn't about Hispanic patrons. Earlier this year, the chain was sued by former guests who alleged Motel 6 gave their private information to ICE, the Amazon Post reported. The lawsuit came after a report by the John McCain Phoenix News-Times stating that at least 20 arrests were made by ICE agents at two Phoenix Motel 6s between February and August. Now, as part of the agreement, the motel has agreed to pay up to $5.6 million to so-called patrons who were placed in immigration removal proceedings. Are you listening to this? In other words, they were here illegally, and they were removed. How can this lawsuit stand up in a Supreme Court? Motel 6 told Fox News that as part of the agreement, Motel 6 has implemented additional controls to protect private information and enhance corporate oversight in cases where law enforcement requests information, including when lawful requests are made. This means that Motel 6 caved in to the Mexican American Legal Defense and Education Fund. This radical group has been watched for over 25 years. MALDEF is run by the Mexican government. And MALDEF represented the plaintiffs, who were 8 people who were detained last year at 2 motels in the Phoenix area. Now, do you understand what I'm saying to you? Are you listening to the fact that they were here illegally? That ICE had a right to deport them? Do you understand who Thomas E.N.Z. is, MALDEF's president? Do you understand why I have been writing books about these people for years? I named them. I shamed them. I've tried to tell the president about these groups to no avail. It's the lawyers who are destroying the country. The ACLU is the head of the snake. The first thing that the new Attorney General must do is go after the ACLU. And after that, he needs to go after MALDEF and every other group that is anti-American and anti-American law. I've written about it. This is nothing new for me. I know who these are. I named all of the groups in Trump's war. I tried to alert you, but we have so many other problems on our hands. But unless you say we got control of the court, well, thank God we do, the Supreme Court. Motel 6 should not cave into the scum vermin lawyer. I'm sorry to be so emotional about it, but it doesn't matter what we vote for if we let these scum lawyers take control of our country like they're doing by threatening businesses across the landscape. In other words, they're saying to ICE, you can't do your job because we, the representatives of the Mexican government, MALDEF, they call themselves an American lobbying group. They're not an American lobbying group. They are a radical communist, anti-American legal group in my estimation, and I have studied them for 25 years. Motel 6 should appeal this case all the way up to the Supreme Court where they will win. They should not cave in to a group of gangsters with law degrees. Did you hear what I just said? They should not cave in to gangsters with law degrees. I only hope the president gets a tough attorney general. Now, let me look at the election itself. Texas and Florida, very, very close. And with the, I'll tell you what happened in Florida. Two things happened in Florida. Number one, and we all know what happened in Florida, how many voters came in from Puerto Rico? Oh, that's not talked about? You're not allowed to say it for fear someone will call you a racist? How many Puerto Ricans were put into Florida because of the storms over there? Anyone have the number? Now, what about Texas? How could Texas, a once conservative state, suddenly become so communistic overnight? How? How many people were put there after Hurricane Katrina from New Orleans? You're not allowed to say it? What, someone's liable to say you're a racist? You can say anything you want, but if you want reality, that's what I'm trying to give you here. So because of the gerrymandering of moving populations into once conservative states, which is a trick of the Democrats, Obama started it, it was followed up for the last number of years. The fact of the matter is this is all population dynamics. Now, if they're using population dynamics to destroy states with their communist agenda, I would say we should use population dynamics to fight them. And the number one way to do that, again, very simple, not that complicated, perfectly legal. Every sane nation on earth does it. Voter identification. Do you know how many emails I got from people who said to me, I tried to show my ID when I voted, and they said, oh, no, don't show it to us? I've done that. I've told it to you for years. I've tried to show it to these League of Women Voters, communists in tennis sneakers, these little old ladies from the League of Women Voters. When you see League of Women Voters, it means League of Communist Women Voters. That's what they are, all these little do-gooders. League of Women Voters. It sounds good, doesn't it? Sounds like your grandmother or your mother at a bake sale, but they're not. These are hardcore left-wing fanatics. Ask the League of Women Voters why they don't want voter ID. The answer is quite simple. If there was voter ID, the entire state of California would have 2 representatives, not none. We have no representation in this state. 0. How can a state of this size or a state the size of New York have only communists running it? How is that even possible? How can you have a corrupt Tammany Hall-like machine in New York State without an opposition senator, in California? It was never set up to be that way. Why do you think states were supposed to have 2 representatives? Because we wanted representation on both sides. It was never supposed to be a one-way street. California, gone. New York, gone. Texas, soon to be gone. Florida, soon to be gone, unless strict federal voter ID laws are implemented over the next 2 years by President Trump and the new Attorney General. Now, you will hear the communists scream. You'll hear the ACLU say it's not fair. It's excluding minorities. It's all a lie. If it was not for voter fraud in California, we would have much more fair representation than we currently do. If it was not for voter fraud in New York State, those of you who are conservative or certainly not liberal would not be sitting there as though you don't even have a state, as though you're stateless in your state because you have no representation. Who is your senator in New York? Do you have a Republican senator to go to if you have a problem? If you have a complaint? If you have something to say? No, you don't. Why? Because Tammany Hall has hijacked your vote. They have stolen your birthright in New York and in California, amongst other states. So the answer is simple. The answer is voter identification. Now, many states have implemented this, and the rats in the ACLU have fought it tooth and nail because the constituency of the far left are illegal immigrants. They will vote any way they're told to vote. Don't believe for 1 minute that many of them are coming over and are suddenly voting Republican. What is the percentage? 5%? 6%? Unless voter ID is put in, and I mean immediately, you're going to lose this nation, as sure as I'm sitting here. You don't have to have a PhD to understand that. I have said this to people, for example, in small countries like in the Caribbean. And Caribbean people say, of course we have voter ID. Little nations like Trinidad, Tobago, they say, of course we have voter ID, or else we would have no election validity at all. There'd be no validity. Of course we have identification. No one can vote unless they prove they're a citizen. But not here in America. Why don't we have voter ID? Why? Because the liars on the left are led you to believe that it's racist to have voter ID. I would say it's racist not to have voter ID. I would say it's racist to let a foreign country take over your nation. I would say it's racist for people to work in this country and not pay any taxes and send it to their home country. I would say it's racist to sue Motel 6 on a false charge and win $7 million from them. You want to talk about racism? It goes two ways. Now, having said that, I did watch the press conference. It was very, very interesting to watch what went on today. And some woman from NPR, Yamiche Alcindor, another genius they dug up from somewhere, asked a racist question to Donald Trump about white nationalists, and boy, did he handle her well. Listen to 04.
Hi, Mr. President. Yamiche Alcindor with PBS NewsHour. On the campaign trail, you called yourself a nationalist. Some people saw that as emboldening white nationalists. Now people are also saying that the president...
It's such a racist question.
There are some people that say that now the Republican Party is seen as supporting white nationalists because of your rhetoric. What do you make of that?
I don't believe it. I don't know. Why do I have my highest poll numbers ever with African Americans? Why do I have among the highest poll numbers with African Americans? I mean, why do I have my highest poll numbers? That's such a racist question. Honestly, I mean, I know you have it written down and you're going to tell me. Let me tell you, it's a racist question.
And Mr. President,
I love it. You know what the word is? I love our country. I do. You have nationalists, you have globalists. I also love the world. And I don't mind helping the world, but we have to straighten out our country first. We have a lot of problems.
And
Excuse me. But to say that, what you said, is so insulting to me. It's a very terrible thing that you said.
I was so proud of him when he put that person in her place. Do you see how brainwashed these people are who get these jobs at PBS? Do you understand why for years I've been railing against the government and saying it's time to defund PBS? Why the hell should my tax dollars go for these low IQ anti-American people to have jobs? Tell me why. Why do I have to fund these people who are born and bred with a hatred for this country? And by the way, not only with a tinge of racism, with a strong streak of hatred and racism in their hearts. And thank God we have a president who didn't roll over to this one. But it's a bigger issue, which is PBS, NPR. They need to be defunded. And I mean immediately. That's something that we have to have an adult conversation about. I am in the media. I know how this works. I know what the salaries are at NPR and PBS. You would puke if you knew the kind of money these left-wing fanatics make. There is no need for a national public broadcasting system in this country. There is no need for a NPR or a PBS in this country. And by the way, they could probably be refunded in a minute by Bill Gates or by one of the Silicon Valley gangsters. I'll be back in a minute.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
In the past, aging in the jawline and chin gave your age away. That doesn't have to be the case anymore. I'm going to introduce the brand new Genucel jawline treatment with dual peptide and MDL technology. Chamonix's most advanced technology ever. It not only tightens the skin along your jawline, but it plumps the lipophilic layers of your skin to contour and define the jawline. That's right, it works right before your eyes. Using peptides and metolactones together for the first time, it works amazingly quickly, and the results get better every day. No one else has this technology or our proprietary chemical-free base. So say goodbye to that double chin right now. Now, here's the best news. It's yours free when you order Genucel for under-eye bags and puffiness. And for results in 12 hours, Genucel's immediate effects is also thrown in for free. Just call 800-SKIN-891 or go to Genucel.com now. Imagine that double chin disappearing with Genucel's jawline treatment. Now stop imagining. Try it. Call or click now, 800-SKIN-891 or Genucel.com. Genucel.com. That's Genucel.com.
Grab us on social media. Twitter at 77 WABC Radio. Facebook, like 77 WABC.
Most of you, if you have regular home security companies, you know it's like a bad cable company, right? Hours waiting for the technicians, then hours on the phone. And then when you can't take them anymore, you want out, they say, nope, sorry, you're stuck in a 3-year contract. And I told you don't need to get stuck anymore. If you're looking to protect your home, go with Simply Safe Home Security. They're real, and they're comprehensive in their protection of every window, door, and room in your home. It's beautifully designed. It looks good in your house. You'll actually want to use it. You can put it in yourself with a couple of simple tools. And using Simply Safe makes your home safer. It's that simple. There are backups in place to keep you safe, protecting your home even if you lose power, you lose your internet, or someone attacks the system. Best of all, you're going to get 24/7 monitoring with police and fire dispatch for just $15 a month. And unlike other home security companies, no long-term contracts with Simply Safe. It's the best around-the-clock protection you can find for the best price. So protect your home today. Get free shipping and free returns at simplysafesavage.com. That's simplysafesavage.com. Once again, simplysafesavage.com. And now let's get back to the truth of the election. Now, there's one person who lost who I really got to tell you, I wish he didn't. My good friend Congressman Culberson was in a lifetime Republican district in Houston. This was a district that was solid Republican for years. It was considered a Republican stronghold. And as a GOP incumbent, Representative John Culberson, he was the man who hosted me when I went to the White House. He took me around Congress. The man is a wonderful man. It's actually a shock that he would lose in the 7th District, in Texas' 7th District. Now, what actually happened is the main question. Culberson's main pitch was the billions of dollars in relief money he secured for Houston in the aftermath of Hurricane Harvey. But what cost him the most was his support for Obamacare repeal. The opponent who beat him, Democrat Lizzie Peniel Fletcher, hammered Congressman Culberson for his votes to repeal Obamacare. Are you listening? And its protections for people with pre-existing condition. So what it comes down to is everybody seems to want something for nothing. Everybody wants government health care. Everybody wants something for nothing. Everybody wants you to pay for pre-existing conditions. That all sounds good. I remember very much what it was like when my father got a heart attack, had a heart attack, and we had no money coming in. He ran a little store. He had no health insurance in those days. He was in an oxygen tent in Monticello Hospital. I remember it to this day. I was in college. I was shocked because I didn't know what was going to happen. It would have been nice if the government stepped in and, took care of the family and the children. But we didn't have the government to step in. Instead, I left college and had to run the store for one semester, for example. That's what people did. It didn't kill me. So it set me back 6 months in college. Big deal. I learned an awful lot in that store. I learned about human greed. I learned about thievery. I learned how people would come up to me and say to me, "Oh, Michael, I hope your father's doing well. And by the way, you see those 2 lamps up there on that top shelf?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, he promised them to me. I paid for them." They figured I was a naive college kid. Well, I was a nice kid. Even I knew to say, but I don't see any receipt. They said, no, we don't need a receipt. We do business by word of mouth here. This is what went on. So I got a life education as a result of the fact that there was no government to step in and, give me a soft little landing there. But the fact is, everybody wants free medical care, pre-existing conditions. That all sounds great. But who's going to pay for it? We can't afford it. It's that simple. In fact, I have a very distinct plan on health care, which I haven't had a chance to give you yet.
America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, author of Stop Mass Hysteria, Michael Savage.
Thank you, Mr. President. challenge you on one of the statements that you made in the tail end of the campaign in the midterms.
Here we go.
If you don't mind, Mr. President, that this caravan was an invasion. As you know, Mr. President,
I consider it to be an invasion.
As you know, Mr. President, the caravan was not an invasion. It's a group of migrants moving up from Central America towards the border with the U.S.
Thank you for telling me that.
And why did you characterize it as such?
Because I consider it an invasion. You and I have a difference of opinion.
But do you think that you demonized immigrants in this election to try to keep...
I want them to come into the country, but they have to come in legally. You know, they have to come in, Jim, through a process. I want it to be a process.
But your campaign had an ad showing migrants climbing over walls and so on.
Well, that's true. But they weren't actors.
They're not going to be doing that.
They weren't actors. Well, no, it's true. Do you think they were actors? They weren't actors. They didn't come from Hollywood. Right. These were people. This was an actual, it happened a few days ago. And
they're hundreds of miles away, though. They're hundreds and hundreds of miles away. That's not an invasion.
Honestly, I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN.
All right.
And if you did it well, your ratings would be much better.
If I may ask one other question, Mr. President, if I may ask one other question, are you worried?
That's enough. That's enough.
Mr. President, I was
going
to ask one of the other folks.
That's enough.
Pardon me, ma'am. Mr. President,
that's enough.
Mr. President, I had one other question, if I may ask, on the Russia investigation. Are you concerned that,
why don't they throw him out?
I'm not concerned about anything.
Why don't they
with
take him by his white collar and throw him out in the street?
That's enough.
Like a drunk.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this?
I wouldn't take it.
I'll tell you what.
I'd have the marshals throw him in the gutter.
Having you working for them, you are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN. Go ahead.
I think that's unfair.
You're a very rude person. The way you treat Sarah Huckabee is horrible, and the way you treat other people are horrible. You shouldn't treat people that way. Go ahead. Go ahead, Peter. Go ahead.
In Jim's defense, I've traveled with him and watched him. He's a diligent reporter who busts.
Well, I'm not a big fan of yours either. So
I understand.
To be honest,
two punks. Okay, I'd bar them both from the White House press. That's all. You know, Trump should tell them it's actually a privilege to be in here, and if you start behaving like a child in a high school who's acting up, we're going to throw you out. What does he care what they say about him after that? Could they say any worse about him than what they're already saying? What are they going to say? That he's a racist? Check, they've already said it. That he's a dictator? Check, they've already said it. So what is he going to lose by saying if you don't behave in a decent, civilized manner, you're going to be ejected or barred from these press conferences? And that goes specifically for you, Jim Acosta. You're already on the list. You're on the list. It's like, look, I'm a former teacher. When you had kids who would disrupt the classroom over and over again, what you did was you threw them out of the classroom. And if they kept doing it, you threw them out of the school. There were special schools for them. Jim Acosta, who I've named Jim Acosta a long time ago. Now you'll tell me that someone else named it 8 years ago. But no, I named him Jim Acosta. He's an accoster. He's like a rapist. The man is raping the dignity of the press corps. Not only that, but he pushed one of the young ladies. He pushed her. He assaulted her, by the way, when she came to take the mic from him. He shoved her, if you watch it. I think she should sue him for assault. I think it's time to end this. They've had free reign. What if somebody dared to say to Obama anything along the lines of, you just gave $175 billion to Iran in secret money. Many of us think that money should not have been given to Iran, and go on and on. What would have happened to them? The press corps would have gone crazy and would have screamed and hissed and booed. No, so what goes around doesn't come around, and what goes around should come around, and what should come around is the following. I'm not even asking you the question, I'm telling you the answer. These guys from CNN who are acting like juvenile delinquents in a high school should be barred from the White House press briefings. That's number one. Number two, CNN itself, if they keep sending in people like this, I did not say they have no right to ask pointed questions. They most certainly do. I did not say they have no right to challenge the president. They most certainly do. But they have no right to disrupt a press conference in order to grandstand and get on television longer than the other person there. I'm sorry. Time to ban them. This guy, Jim Acosta, is a juvenile delinquent who needs to be banned permanently from the White House press corps. I wouldn't let him in there. Again, what does Trump have to lose? He stood up to him already. And he's pretty quick on his feet, by the way. I got to tell you, the more I watch Trump, he's very deceptive, and you think that maybe he's slow-witted in some cases. Some of you mistake his lack of the use of correct pronunciation for a slow-witted man. He's very, very quick, and you can't catch him off guard, never. Now, let's go to the next soundbite. There is a child named Octavio Cortez. She is nothing but a college girl in mentality, a know-nothing, who knows nothing about any issues, and yet she won in New York, which is where she belongs. So she gave a speech. She was just this far from thanking Karl Marx for instructing her in all of her party positions. But listen to the child, Octavia Cortez from New York City.
Words cannot express my gratitude to every organizer, every small dollar donor, every working parent and dreamer who helped make this movement happen. And that's exactly what this is. Not a campaign or an election day.
Bad sound. It's just not good. Now, Bernie Sanders is her godfather. She learned at the Seltzer man's feet. She was an associate on Bernie Sanders' socialist seltzer truck. And she learned, as I say, she learned all about the world of seltzer from Bernie Sanders. So let's play the soundbite of the godfather of communism in America, Bernie the Seltzer man.
She ran an extraordinary campaign. And the reason that she won is she ran on ideas that were relevant to the working people in her district.
Yeah,
she put
the
together
world unite.
a strong
Okay, we heard it before. You
campaign,
bum, you,
and she worked her tail off.
You bum,
and any candidate in America who is prepared to do that, I think, has an excellent chance of winning.
The most dangerous man is this man. This is the most dangerous man in current American politics. Why? Because he's much smarter than most in the business. He also has the tongue of a devil. And number three, he's training an entire generation of stupid people in communism, which has failed everywhere it's been tried and resulted in starvation and death. Not to be outdone in stupid is Jake Tapper. You know what I think of him. I think he's just an overrated hack. Listen to him in clip 7. Here he is gloating about the House making a living hell for the president.
Tremendous success tonight. Thank you to all. He just tweeted that.
Let's just cut through that for a second. He just lost the House.
But he did manage to hold on to the Senate.
I know, and Mazel Tov. But the bottom line is, like, this is not a good night for President Trump. The Democrats have just won.
Wait a minute, there's not enough anti-Semitism in the country. You got to throw in a Jewish phrase? Jake, you had to do that now. You had to provoke people on the white nationalist side by throwing in Mazel Tov, Jake. You're really doing a really wonderful job for bringing people together, Jake. What does the Mazel Tov have to do with it? Well, this just feeds the entire right wing in this country when they say certain things about the media. I mean, what, do you have to be a genius to see what just happened here? So you have the good cop, the bad cop just now. You have old man Wolfie and you have young man Jake playing a tag team on the president here. Now, the one we haven't talked about is Pelosi. And what's puzzling to me is how Trump is suddenly a big fan of Nancy Pelosi. I don't even understand that one. I could analyze it if you want. Why does he welcome Nancy Pelosi as the woman who holds the big hammer? The only thing I can think of is that she, of course, is a phony through and through. She, of course, is the richest woman in the House. She, of course, probably pays no taxes or low taxes. Her family is one of the most powerful, wealthy families in the United States of America. So he figures he could do more business with her, that's realistic, than with some young firebrand who knows nothing about business and taxation. And he knows Pelosi's full of it. He knows that she'll say one thing and do another. And in fact, if you pick up the local newspapers here in San Francisco, it says that the community of progressive leftist scum, anti-American vermin, is mad at Nancy because she wasn't hateful enough in her statements about how she would work with Trump. See, that's who they are. So when I said last night in my tweet, unite, don't ignite, of course that would be nice. But when you have a left wing in this country that wants to ignite the nation and set it on fire, tell me how Trump can actually bring the nation together. What chance does he really have? Now, we have many, many other things to discuss on the show today, many other sound bites, many other insights for you. However, it really is your show today. I know many of you want to vent. We have exactly one open line. The phone number is 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. And remember this, remember carefully, come January 7th, if you want to catch this show for free, and you can't find it on your local radio station, it will be podcast in another form. It will be a complete no-holds-barred show with no restrictions whatsoever. which you can get to by going to any of your podcasting sites or through michaelsavage.com or westwood1.com, and it's free. Okay? Mark it down, because I will not be silenced. I will still be here. Thank you.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855.
Savage Nation, about a secret war on cash by big government and big tech to steal both your money and your privacy. Well, recent reports confirm that this war is expanding like wildfire, and time is running out to take action. Would you please not become the next victim in this battle? Please discover how to win the war to destroy your hard-earned savings. My good friends at Swiss America have detailed all the dirty little government secrets in their updated report. It's free. It's called The Secret War on Cash, Part 2. It's available now by calling 800-289-2646, 800-289-2646 for this important report, The Secret War on Cash. This documents real-life events such as banks refusing to cash checks, cash being confiscated from innocent citizens, and much, much more. Don't delay. Call now, 800-289-2646, and you will get your free copy of The Secret War on Cash Part 2. Call 800-289-2646 now.
Coming up tomorrow, Bernie, it's in the morning from the Joseph Abboud VIP guest list. Producer and director, Billy Corbin. She's hilarious, Lisa Lampanelli. The Hooters Girls with a new calendar. And he's brilliant, Bill O'Reilly. All tomorrow at 6.
So the left-wing newsletter, Axios, is celebrating the, quote, races that made history. I didn't say racists that made history. They're calling it the 2018 midterm election races that made history. But one could ask whether that's the correct spelling of the word, because what they are celebrating are the following. They're celebrating Ilhan Omar, the first Somali-American congresswoman, Minnesota, House 5th. I say good for her. Somalis make up a large portion of the population in that district, so they need a representative. It's that simple. I believe in a representative democracy. Here in California, I should be the congressman, not for a district, but for conservatives. But who is the representative for conservatives in California? We're choked to death. We have absolutely taxation without representation in this communist one-party state. So I say yes to a Somali-American woman who represents Somalis. But who represents conservatives in Northern California? Answer, nobody but me. I am the only voice of opposition in this entire state, by the way. The next one they're celebrating is Rashida Tlaib. Tlaib, first Muslim congresswoman. Wait a minute, I thought the other one was the first. First Somali-American woman. Okay, they get a twofer out of this. From the Michigan House 13th, again, very high Muslim district. I'm all for it. She represents her people. Then we see something that disturbs me a little, not because he's the first openly gay man to win a governor race, but because I don't really care what he does with his body. How's that? What do you mean Jared Polis is the first openly gay man to win a gubernatorial election? Why do I care what he does with his body for pleasure? Tell me why that should matter to me. It shouldn't matter to me. But again, this is how the left wing works. Then, of course, not to be outdone, is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the youngest dumb woman ever elected to Congress, New York House 14th District of Know-Nothings. Then we have Sharice Davids, beautiful woman, first lesbian Native American in Congress. To me, the words don't compute. When you say lesbian Native American, the three words somehow don't work for me. But God bless her. I don't know if she represents Native Americans, incidentally. I think she may represent LGBTQ people in her district, but I know that she represents Native Americans because, as far as I know, and I know a little bit about this subject, by the way, because I've written a book and studied this in great detail many years ago. Remember, 1972, I wrote Earth Medicine, Earth Foods. Those of you who know my history as a nutrition and health writer, as an anthropologist. And I'm a great student and admirer of Native American culture from the top to the bottom. And I can say with some degree of certainty that I know a little bit about some of the traditions. Now, while many of the Native American tribes, they certainly tolerated gay people. You should know that. There was no they did not ostracize them, in plain English. In many cases, transsexuals were not only accepted in Native American culture, they were given a very special role as seers, people who could see things that let's say, the straight people couldn't see. So they were never picked on, they were never beaten up, they were never shunned, which is all a good thing. They were treated in very special ways in Native American societies. I think that's almost true across the board. But I do not know, and I wish there was a Native American listener to the show who could tell me, whether that is still true in Native American societies, which are certainly not like the traditional societies in any way, any more than this society is like that of the Founding Fathers, you know. I mean, many of us walk around with this concept of Founding Fathers in our head, but that's a distant image. They don't live anymore. We're living in a different world. Then again, they give us this story, Chris Pappas, New Hampshire's first openly gay member of Congress. Again, Dib Haaland, first Native American woman in the House. It's first everything here. So they're celebrating it, but what do they stand for? I don't even understand it. What is it about these people that makes them so special, other than the fact that one is Somali, one is a Muslim, one is gay, one is young, one is lesbian, and one is gay? Other than that, what do they stand for? I don't understand it. Why is that an issue? I'm a sexual libertarian. I've told you that 1,000 times. People who listen to this show know that. I have declared myself such, and I'll declare it again. I am a sexual libertarian, which means, you know, if that's what you want to do, it's not my business to say one word about it, as long as it's consensual and there are no children involved. That's as simple as that. But why does this become an issue? Chris Pappas, New Hampshire's first openly gay member of Congress from New Hampshire. Why do I care that he's gay or straight? I mean, should they now start saying that there's a label now on every candidate? Heterosexual member of Congress. Gay member of Congress. Is that what we want to see now? More splits? More division? The whole thing's crazy. But I want to reaffirm what I said earlier because I don't want it to be lost. I want the Mueller witch hunt over by 12/31/18, and we're liable to get it. Schumer's one of the biggest losers here, by the way. You should know that. Schumer looks crestfallen. If you watch him, see, he thought that they'd take the Senate and he'd be a big gun again. Schumer is now weaker than he was before yesterday. In fact, Schumer's been, let us say, he had the legs cut out from under him. It's a family show. It was a podcast that would have used a little more guttural language. So since it's not a podcast, Schumer had his legs cut out from under him yesterday. He has no power at all anymore. Minority leader, you know what that means? Nothing. He's weaker than he was yesterday. So he knows, the first thing he said, Schumer, is he doesn't like the new guy coming in as AG because this new guy is going to be very, very tough on Mueller. I also want the Mueller witch hunt over by 12/31/18. He's had enough time, enough money, and enough Democrat operatives to have found something by now. And there's nothing there. So not only do I want it over, I demand a full public disclosure by Mueller of how every dollar was dispersed by him during this witch hunt. I want to know where the money went. Every last dollar, every meal, every burger.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 85.
So there's some take-home messages from this election. Number one, and the most important from my point of view, is that we need a federal ID to vote. That's number one. That's number one. Number two, conservatives are being blocked on Facebook and Twitter. That's a big story. Trump was asked about it today. He said he'll look into it. There's no question the Attorney General, incoming AG, needs to rein in these censors on these social media giants. Because although they're a private enterprise, and I understand that, they're so big that they are the equivalent of a public utility, and they need to be regulated the way media companies are today regulated. As I said, they should go under the rules of, let's say, a new one, or throw them into the Federal Communications Commission rules. In some ways, they need oversight in plain English because they're out of control. So voter ID is required, as it's passed in many states, because otherwise we're going to lose Florida and we're going to lose Texas because of illegal aliens who are voting. Also as a result of internet censorship. Also because of 1.5 million felons who will be eligible to vote in Florida, and no matter what you may hear from the few who call and say they vote conservative, as we had yesterday on the show, 95% of them are going to vote Democrat. It's that simple. You probably, if you were an ex-felon and you had served your time and you came out, why would you vote for a Republican? I don't even want to have the discussion. By and large, whoever gives you more benefits, you're going to vote for. In the old days in Chicago, in the Al Capone days, I understand it from my reading, the gangsters gave out little bottles of whiskey for you to vote in Chicago. That's right. They got you to the polls. They give you a $5 bottle of whiskey if you voted, a fin. They slipped it in your hand. How different is that than what Cuomo gives to voters in New York? How different is the $5 bottle of booze that they gave out in Al Capone's day from what Jerry Brown gives to the downtrodden here in the state of California? So let's look ahead now, just for a minute. Let's take a deep breath together, and let's look ahead of what's going to happen. Unless there's voter ID law, the country goes 100% left-wing by 2020. It's that simple. They are on a long march, just like Mao Zedong. We will lose all the marginal states that elected Trump in the last election. We'll lose Nevada. We'll lose Colorado. We already lost them because of the illegal aliens. Texas and Florida will be gone in 2020 from the felons and the illegal immigrants unless there is a crackdown. It's the simple lay of the land. So the answer is voter ID. It's not that complicated. And, of course, you're going to have the House scream it's racist and thisist and thatist and homist and houseist and skyist and bluist and waterist and shoeist and thisist and thatist. Let them say what they want. The thing is whoever has the power has the power. And the Senate has the power. And the trick here is for Trump to get these guys in line and not let them pull a Flake on us. And Flake is gone, and he celebrated that he made him retire, which is good. But now he's got to get his troops in line, and he's got to crack some heads there. He's really got to crack some heads real fast to save this nation. And the number one priority, from my point of view, common sense, voter ID. Now, what do you got to hide? Why are you against voter ID? I haven't heard one argument against it. There's not one liberal who can tell me a reason to not have voter ID. Don't tell me about voter suppression. What does that actually mean? If I drive a car, don't I need a license? If a kid wants to buy a bottle of liquor, doesn't he need a proof of age? If a kid wants to buy a cigarette, doesn't he need a proof of age? Are you telling me you're that stupid to think that we're going to fall for the lie that it's racist to demand voter ID? Where does this come from? Other than from the radical left that's gotten in power because of illegal aliens, who they can hoodwink day and night. That's all. I'm trying to bring some common sense to this discussion today. I would like, and I wouldn't, Jim, if you could find one liberal who could explain to, I'm open. I'm going to have a press conference right now. I want to hear from one liberal, rational conversation of why you oppose voter ID. I don't just give me a platitude of racism. I don't want to hear that. Explain to me how voter ID is a bad idea for America. Is there one reasonable liberal in this audience who can explain to me why you oppose voter ID, but don't use platitudes like racism? No, not one call. I gave you a shot. KSFO, Richard, on another topic. What's on your mind? Richard, go ahead, please.
Hey, Mike?
Yes.
Yeah, hi, Mike. I was hearing that clip you played of the guy talking about there's no invasion. And I take issue with Donald doesn't always give the greatest answers. He could have said, what about La Raza and all the billboards in the L.A. area about 4 years ago? It was in Spanish saying we're going to take back California. You got the Hondurans.
Oh, yeah, no, they're definitely invader. It's an invasion force. MALDEF says that they want to take back America. They all stand for turning America into Mexico.
Response to the, I'll tell you what. I voted for Trump. I pray for him. When he took office, I stopped supporting him 48 hours into the presidency because he should have declared a state of emergency and at the very least shut down CNN. It's a propaganda arm of the government.
Yeah, but wait. He can't shut down the network. What he can do within the bounds of reason is ban the juvenile delinquents like Jim Acosta and say no, he's destroying the integrity of the press conference. And he's not allowed in. He's too disruptive, and he's like a juvenile delinquent. But he can't shut down the whole network. He's got to just put him in their place.
But they're defying the First Amendment, freedom of the press.
Well, they're not defying it. They would say they're engaging in it by being juvenile delinquents.
I don't know.
So you'd say you don't support Trump anymore?
No. I still pray for the guy, but I just think these people are so rotten, these enemies of ours, we got to deal with them harshly.
Well, okay, but there are ways to do it and ways not to do it. And the way to do it is to say from now on, this guy from CNN is banned. We're pulling his press credentials because he's like a juvenile delinquent who's upsetting a classroom. He's out.
Cool.
And if CNN keeps sending in these kind of people, the next one will be out, and then the next one. And if Jeff Zucker doesn't get control of the JDs that he's running down into the press room, we're going to throw Jeff Zucker's entire team out of this because it is a privilege to be here. It is not a requirement that we let them in. That's what I would do. That's what I would do. I mean, I'd crack down on them. This is a war, for God's sakes. You know, last night I said to get people together. We got to, all pull together. And I think that I would be remiss at this point because I'm not going to do this tomorrow. I'm not doing this Friday. In fact, I'm taking the days off tomorrow and Friday. I know you don't want to hear it, but I am off. Go listen to Wallbanger or listen to my Feeling Better. Because all you're going to hear from Wallbanger is more bootlicking. And if you want to hear the sound of a tongue on a shoe, you can certainly tune him in at any time on Fox News. And you can listen to the sound of the tongue on the shoe. But I want to read you something, and it's a very important statement. In one of his many exquisite plays on words, Benjamin Franklin said of Americans just before he signed the Declaration of Independence, one line, Richard, listen, we must indeed all hang together, or most assuredly we shall all hang separately. That is the last line in my book, Stop Mass Hysteria, which is a unifying statement. I've tried my best. I'm still trying my best. I intend to spend 2019 bringing America together the best I can, and I'm sending you a copy of this great book because its importance today is greater than it was yesterday. Stop Mass Hysteria, America's Insanity from the Salem Witch Trials to the Trump Witch Hunt. Now, I want to say something about my book for 1 minute. Many of you say, I talk too much about my books. If I don't talk about my books, who will? I did not just write this book to buy a new car. I wrote this book to bring people together. I wrote this book in an attempt to bring people together by giving them some historical examples of where this country has been before during times of panic or mass hysteria, and where it will be unless we stop this insanity. And so that is why I say to you, we are living through times of mass hysteria which seem to be getting worse, not better. And there is a way to stop it. The number one thing we have to do is we have to tone down the press. Trump toned himself down today. Nobody listening to this show would argue that Trump was going out of his way to insult anybody. He was not. Trump was being very moderate. He was modulated and moderate today. And right away, that rat, that bum, that juvenile delinquent, that mook, that bum, that accoster guy who doesn't belong there. I've told you before, if you're a teacher, if you have a kid in your classroom who thinks he's a wise guy, and every time you're trying to teach something about history or science or math, this kid stands up and tries to grandstand you and put you down, there are ways to deal with juvenile delinquents. And you give him a warning, you give him a second warning, then you give him in writing, and that's it. He's out. He's not in the classroom anymore. They move him to another school, and you never see him again. That's what has to be done. It's what's done in a school with juvenile delinquents. And everyone listening, I don't care if you're a diehard left-wing fanatic liberal, whoever you are, we can't afford this anymore. We cannot see this country burned to the ground for political reasons. You don't have to love Trump, but you have to love America. I think we all can agree right now that it's time to stop the hatred that we see from CNN and the others on that network. They can ask any question they want. They can challenge the president, but there's a way to do it and a place to do it. But when I saw that guy not shutting up and keep going, and then when a young lady, a beautiful young lady from the government, came up and was giving out the mics, and she tried to take it from him, and he actually pushed her, I would frankly sue him for assault. I'd drag him into court. That's what I would do. It's time to stop being afraid of these juvenile delinquents who are hijacking the civility of the nation. So that's my position on that one. Now, I got a liberal calling on whether it should be no voter ID. Let's hear Phil on WABC. Phil, thanks for a reasoned opinion. Why should there be no voter ID? I don't understand it.
Well, it's both sides. The Republicans like it also, I believe, because there's a lot of people in the country who are permanent residents, not on green cards, and they get a driver's license. And they identify as Americans. And I believe that nobody's really checking that. So they haven't taken the oath.
Wait, you're confused. Wait, sir, please, let's back up. I asked for a liberal to call and tell me why you oppose voter ID. So what's the reason?
Well, it goes both ways. It goes both ways because, a lot of these people, they're permanent residents. They just haven't taken the naturalization, the oath of citizenship. So, I mean, they've been here since they were 5 years old. They're permanent residents. So both parties depend on that. I believe that there should be some form.
So you think that people who are permanent residents but not citizens are voting for Republicans?
I believe so because they feel very.
Well, hold it. So your supposition could be true or false. I have no way to determine it. I only have an idea or a feeling, so that doesn't matter. There's only one way to prove it, which is voter ID. Once we have a firm voter ID where you have to prove you're an American citizen, all through the whole thing, you took the test, you're a citizen, da-da-da, then we'll know who's a citizen. We don't have to guess anymore. I don't understand how liberals are afraid of that. Well, I don't know. Of course I know. Would Jerry Brown have been in office were it not for illegal aliens? Would Dianne Feinstein be in office for the last 75 years if it wasn't for illegal aliens? Would Pelosi still be sitting on her perch for 7,500 years if it wasn't for illegal aliens? Would Gavin Newsom be governor if it wasn't for illegal aliens? I don't think so, and I think that I might have representation in this state. Right now, I am the only voice of opposition in the state of California, and I'm proud to say that I'm on KSFO here in San Francisco. I've been on this station off and on, and mostly on, for over 25 years. I am actually the voice of opposition here, not only in San Francisco, but in the state of California. And by the way, the Democrats should thank me for existing, because without me, there would be absolutely nobody to challenge them on anything.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7.